So welcome to another NJThrives small business webinar. If you haven't been here before, these are weekly webinars we create to help New Jersey small business owners start, grow, and thrive. So I am your host, Christian Pichardo, NJSBDC Specialty Consultant and CEO at NilumaMedia.com. So we're the NJSBDC, America's New Jersey Small Business Development Centers Network. And we're a statewide program powered by the SBA and partners, and we help small businesses in New Jersey with three things: no-cost small business consulting, training and events starting at $0, and exclusive small business resources. So for today, we go over a couple of small business headlines. We jump into the webinar, and towards the end, we will hold a Q&A session. So to start, first one up here is that the SBA announces their first ever, this historic for SBA, in collaboration with Black fraternities and sororities to address the wealth gap through Black entrepreneurship. So this is the first of its kind for a government agency. So it's the NPHC that they're going to be working together. Not exactly sure what the collaboration is going to, how it's going to manifest, whether it's, training or programs or grants or stuff like that just yet. But their focus, it seems here, is to increase financial literacy within traditionally underserved, disadvantaged communities, expanding the agency's outreach using SBA's suite of tools and resources. So that is news number one. And news item number two, Governor Murphy and New Jersey CEOs are launching a New Jersey Pay It Forward sort of program, and it's to support post-pandemic career seekers. So what this is going to do is provide zero interest loans and grants to students who are enrolled in non-degree credential and certificate programs at approved training providers. So basically it's, well, it says right here, let's see, it's going to focus on helping students enroll in short-term training programs to offer high quality, industry recognized credentials and certificates in high demand fields, et cetera, et cetera. So this, of course, is exciting. Any new programs, grants, that will help our community move forward is good to hear. So however this may help you, we're going to drop the links into the chat and you could share or read on your own time. This is a pretty long article, so we won't read that here. And last one here is sort of, it's not a particular program or a particular grant or anything like that. But this is just to, making a note of that the state is building Murphy's innovative economy ecosystem alongside the efforts of the NJEDA, which we work very closely with. And basically in this article, they just speak about all the things New Jersey is doing, and the NJEDA specifically is doing to help. So you have NJIEF, Innovation Evergreen Fund, net operating loss programs, basically listing out different types of programs that they've been able to create to build this innovative economy ecosystem. So if you're wondering where can I get more information on uh, how does this help me, or how can it help me as a small business owner? I would advise to go to the NJEDA website, which is right here. And this is where they will have most of the state's programs that are specifically for small businesses. So with that being said, that is the small business headlines for this week. Now, before we jump into the webinar, a couple of things to keep in mind is to please type in your questions into the Q&A box. Sometimes they may get lost into the chat. So, and also in the Q&A box, you can ask anonymously. And number two is to please complete a 3-minute survey. I've timed it. It takes literally 3 minutes. And this helps us, create new training programs, events, etc., for small businesses, for you. So once you complete that survey, then you would be able to get access to the presentation materials and resources, such as the slideshow of our presenter today and the recording of the webinar. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome Unsu Lee. He is an associate professor at the New Jersey City University. And today he's going to be showing us what is really the impact of the global supply chain disruption on small business, and potentially how we can get ahead of it. So, Unsu, are you here?
Thanks, Christian. Trying to share my screen. Thanks,
right.
Christian. Thanks for a great introduction. I'm really happy to be here to talk about the topic. Can I just move forward?
Yeah, you can go right ahead. The floor is yours.
All right, I'm going to share my screen first. Share screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, you're good to go, Unsu.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Christian. Thanks for a great introduction. I'm so happy to be here. I also would like to thank NJSBDC and CARES Act for inviting me to this weekly webinar. I think should be a great topic, and everybody interested in supply chain disruption these days. So I'm going to have a discussion after this presentation. Okay, my name is Unsu Lee. I'm an associate professor of NJCU School of Business. And, I teach supply chain logistics, maritime port management. I also hold certified production inventory management and certified supply chain professional. I have been working in the industry over 20 years as a logistics consultant, logistics software application consultant, and transportation modeler and planner. And now I have been teaching, working with the students. I'm so glad to be here to talk about the supply chain issues. So today I'm going to cover the supply chain disruptions on impact of a global supply chain on small business. So we're going to see what's going on around the world and in New Jersey. And then we're going to see the difference between value chain and supply chain network. And so we try to differentiate logistics activities and supply chain network. And so we're going to have a question: how do the supply channel and supply chain network work? Is the supply chain a key factor to the inflation? I was having this question for a while, and then finally I'm thinking there's a great, it's a critical factor on inflation. So we need to figure out how we're gonna come up with better ideas. So then also we're gonna see the impact of the global supply chain on small business and how to deal with the impact. Then we're gonna conclude the presentation, being followed by discussion. So we have been through a very tough time by the COVID-19. Finally, we are end of a tunnel, but still so many things are going on. So in 2020, so it happened. And so in 2021, you saw the Ever Given, one of the largest container vessels around the world, was stuck in Suez Canal because of the strong wind. The vessel was delivering 18,000 containers to the European countries, and then was going back to China. And it was stuck for a week. And so over more than 100 vessels outside the Suez Canal was waiting for the vessel to be cleaned. That has huge supply chain disruptions and economic impact. In 2021 also, we heard a lot of news coverage regarding automotive microchip shortage. So the two biggest countries, South Korea and Taiwan, producing chips, but the demand was so high and the supply chain was disrupted. So the suppliers couldn't deliver the product to the car manufacturers, because car manufacturers, each vehicle use a lot of chips. Right? Then we're still experiencing international conflict between Russia and Ukraine. We also see the geopolitical issues between China and United States and other countries. And so many things are going on around the world, including sustainable issues. Like we also have severe weather conditions such as tropical storms, extreme drought, bomb cyclones, and cold weather, flooding, hurricane, earthquakes around the world. That has impact on gas price and food prices. To overcome the COVID-19 economic impact, most of the government nations put money into the market to save the markets, but we have too much, so we see too much money. I cannot say that, but I love, everybody loves a lot of money, but too much money in the market than before. So the price went up, supply chain has disruptions, has impact on the inflation. So we're going to talk about a little bit about inflation. So I should cover the definition of supply chain. So most of you maybe run small businesses, right? And it doesn't matter if you have a large company, a small company, and you're working for large companies, small companies. You also have these kind of business functions, including sourcing, procurement, production, marketing, logistics. Production can be service, right? So you need to find the suppliers and need to have a contract to get right products or raw materials. And then marketing should work with the customers, and you should deliver the product and services on the right time at the right prices. So whole things are mingled for a firm. If you have a small company, if you're working for a small company, all these functions are mixed, and maybe one manager deal with all these things. But if you're working for a larger company, you have a different divisions, department. So that is supply chain. But the question is, why we need to talk about supply chain? Because to generate profit for your business, so you need to deliver values to the customers. So value is flowing from upstream to downstream. So through inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, sales marketing service. So we call this a value chain. Now value chain itself is a kind of conceptual, but how we deliver the value. So that value flow down through supply chain. So it's very important to maintain very efficient, effective supply chain networks. So before going further about supply chain, I want to talk about extended enterprise. So I mentioned the functions, business functions of firm, including logistics, marketing, sourcing, production. So these kind of activities will be happening in suppliers. So these suppliers connected to your company, and then also have customers. Your customer can be end users or other smaller companies. So, or larger companies. Those enterprises are mixed. So if you work with suppliers, customers together in efficient ways, so you think all functions are really well connected, like so you can run those functions like one company. So it is extended enterprise through the supply chain. So if you focus on the firm, your firm, and upstream and downstreams, so near the market. So upstream also is, can be local suppliers, domestic supplier, global suppliers. So your customers in the downstream side, so it can be local, domestic, global customers. So this supply chain network is being extended to the global side. So that's why we're talking about global supply chain today. So as I mentioned, the business focuses on value, which is customer centric, right? So you need to deal with product and services, which is operation focus. So we call it logistics. So you're familiar with that. Now, supply chain management is supply chain management focus on relationships. So you need to have integration and coordination approach with other companies. So usually small firms don't see the whole supply chain as a part of your business, but you're familiar with the logistics. On the left-hand side, you see the picture from Manhattan. So the Whole Food deliver the product to the customers. That is definitely logistics activities, but you don't say that is supply chain. So as I said, any firms got business functions. So it's flowing down from upstream to downstream through different business functions. This is not the definite, but it's kind of conceptual. So if you have one channel, that is a single channel supply chain, or however, so the world is getting complicated and the supply chain is being extended to the global. So you have more suppliers, more producers, more distributors, more retailers, more customers, from local, from global. So all these are mingled together. So if you have multiple channels, no, actually I'm saying sometimes you're gonna have only one suppliers for one product, but if you have multiple products, you have a different suppliers. That means so your supply chain channels, number of supply channels getting larger. So that makes more complicated. So there can be multiple channels. So if you run small business, your business is maybe part of the supply chain or throughout the supply chain. So, and even if you don't run supply chain, you may part of the supply chain. So that's why your business is being impacted by the existing global supply chain disruption. However, unfortunately, that is getting more complicated, and so so need to see, you need to understand clearly who are your suppliers, customers, and how you deal with supply channel. So you may heard about omni-channel approach. So customers use different ways to place orders. They're trying to get product in different ways. So they may want to pick up from your places, or they may want to receive through delivery man. So that's why I need to deal with omni-channel approach. However, we try to make the supply chain shorter, because if you have longer ones, you have much more variability. So if you have high variability, it's difficult to deal with that. So try to make it shorter. So customers try to remove any intermediaries. So for example, on slide, the customers want to pick up product services from distribution centers directly by skipping retailers. And then also they want to receive product services from producer manufacturers directly using direct shipping or drop shipping approach, because the customers are familiar with the e-commerce platform. They'll place an order directly to the producers, and producer working with the third-party logistics companies and deliver product to the customers. Now, even getting more complicated when we get technologies implemented. For example, so if you have a very nice some music players, but that's not available in the market anymore, or you want to keep it and want to listen music, and if you need any parts, what are you going to do? So you cannot have it. Maybe you go to the Amazon or eBay to find the parts, but if those parts are not available, you may need to create your own parts. So you can use the 3D printers using CAD applications and print your parts and you fix it. So that is additive manufacturing. So additive manufacturing system will not going to replace producers. However, that's going to be help customers to get the parts and products at home. So let me think. Let's think about what happened during the COVID-19. What did you expect during the COVID-19 in terms of demand? Everybody expected demand will go down. I participated in one webinar hosted by New York chapter of IBF, International Institute of Business Forecasting. So the expert was talking about what kind of shapes we're going to expect because of COVID-19. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So V-shaped, U-shaped, W-shaped. So all different type shaped were being discussed. So V-shape is the best in terms of recovery, but U-shape maybe okay, and W-shape is not good. But at the end of this COVID-19, not end, but in the middle of COVID-19, and in 2021, we saw that curve was a V-shaped demand recovery curve. So that means demand come back very quickly and very high. So you see the gap between demand and supply, right? So we saw this kind of a situation in April 2020. The warehouse was empty and shelf didn't have any products, and you see outdoor dining centers and delivery platforms everywhere. And I saw this picture. No, I got this picture from Liberty State Park in September 2021. So you see a lot of vessels waiting to be loaded at Elizabeth or Bayonne Container Terminal. And then I thought, because of COVID-19, I think nobody will buy the cars. But actually the store was very busy in November 2021 because people didn't want to take a public transportation, so they want to have their own car. But as we had a discussion about the chip shortage, and the car was not available, so a lot of customers are waiting, and they are paying more than regular price to get the vehicle. So supply chain that should be maintained effectively, efficiently, to make a smooth flow of values to the customers. However, we experienced COVID-19 and high demand than supply's capability. And so that created supply chain disruption because of deteriorated infrastructure and shutdown, labor shortage, high fuel price, and then geopolitical instability such as supply shortage, gas price, food security are the result of geopolitical instability. And climate change also has huge impact on supply chain disruption. So we should see the supply chain in the future. So the supply chain is being reshaped, let's say reshuffling. And you see the US-China trade war and power struggles create new word terminology, friendshoring, right? For example, US try to make a clique of friends, so try to create new supply chain with the friends. So that's a friendshoring. It is kind of a national security to deal with the rising political tensions. So we need to come up with a self-sufficient and independent energy and supply chain network, such as reshoring. We're trying to bring manufacturers from other countries to our domestic land, or nearshoring, like in Canada and Mexico. So for United States market, Canada and Mexico will be the future location of manufacturers. So every country try to protect their own economy. So they try to shut down and they keep price high for the imported product, right? And the question is how we transfer logistics costs, increase the logistics cost to the price, right? So once the price go up, so we see higher inflation. So intermediaries such as warehouses, distribution centers, transportation companies hold that cost. So if you don't solve the problem in upstream, the price will be higher in the downstream. So it's kind of ripple effect. So we see the gap between supply capability and demand in the market. So demand is very high, but from the supply side, we see the disruptions. So in the middle of supply and demand, supply chain systems should be in the middle. So actually supply demand is moving up and down, right? However, what's going on is supply chain moved to the left, to the right because of disruptions and lack of infrastructures and labor shortage, things like that. So we also see the inequality, right? So large companies book the container ships, but small companies couldn't find any container slots in the container ships. So bigger company has a better contract deal with shippers and contractors, but small companies couldn't find it. Even they pay double and triple, they couldn't find empty container. So the world is very unpredictable, uncertain. And as we saw those issues, the world is getting more complicated, and it's also very dynamic. For the demand side, we see the panic demand and stockpiles and geographical imbalance. Some areas has more product and some other places don't have enough inventory and products. So they're supposed to transfer product from point A to point B, but there is a disruption of transportation. They couldn't make it happen on the right time. So we experienced record high gas prices because of weather issues, geopolitical issues, and conflicts. So way higher than before, right? On the left-hand side, you see the graph. On the right-hand side, just yesterday, our U.S. Federal Reserve raised interest rate by 0.75, which is a giant step. Expected big step, but suddenly it was a giant step. So mortgage rate is so high to pull money back and try to the market cool down. So let's take a look at the consumer price index. So all items consumer price index shows 8.6%. Okay, some people complain because the energy and food prices, the all items consumer price indexes is biased. Then let's see the green bar, which is all items excluding food and energy. It also shows 6.6% of consumer price index. That means it's 6.6% higher than last year. So if you drill down into different categories, commodities and services, see commodities, consumer price index 8.5%, and service CPI is 5.2%. So if you drill down into commodities and you see different category of commodities show different CPI. Okay, so we know new vehicles, used cars, are very expensive than before, so we cannot afford it. So it shows 12%, 16% CPI. It happened. I don't know if the price will go down because consumers try to looking for better new design, so the price will go up, right? And then apparel, the CPI is 5.5%, and alcoholic beverage and tobacco 4.6, 7.9 respectively. So if you take a look at the service CPI, shelter services, including home, housing, 5.4%, and transportation service 7.9%, as you expected, right? So we heard a lot of driver shortage and no slots for containers, right? So 7.9%. So the business is going for global. So import export CPI also important. So to import gas, food, other commodities, you also see very high CPI here, right? And also import price index is very high. So ironically, to export grain from US to other countries is much higher. That means it sounds like a good news, but it's bad news to the global, and that has an impact on other commodities. So I was attending one conference in New Jersey, and I was asking a panel, do you think supply chain is a factor of this inflation? And then nobody answered yes or no at the time. But now White House says, see, supply chain and prevent disruption that have caused inflation. And also the Secretary of US Department of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, had an interview with the BBC saying that transportation infrastructure bottleneck disruptions cause inflation. So we try to fix transportation issues. So what happened to transportation infrastructure, you see the 2021 infrastructure grade is C minus for America's cumulative infrastructure grade. Even at NJC School of Business, if you have a C minus, you need to retake it. So C minus is not a good grade. So we experience supply chain disruption and inflation that makes perfect storm. So where are we moving to? So we're gonna experience this inflation for a while. The Federal Reserve tried to control the inflation less than 3%. We hope so, that's being under control. But if we go over 10%, it's gonna be hyperinflation. But personally, I don't think it's going to happen. But the problem is, if have high interest rate and people not spending anymore, that means demand goes down, right? And then we'll experience stagflation. That's going to be bad news. However, so far, the demand is so strong in the United States, at least. And many other countries, demand goes down. So they really worry about stagflation next year and in a couple of years. So impact of a supply chain disruption on small business include labor shortage, longer lead time to receive your orders. It's very long to take it, and a high competition in the market, and inventory placement. You don't have enough inventory, but you cannot get the product on time, in time at your places. And transportation service, financial interest rate is very high, and space rent price is going up. So you need to have a preventive and responsive and recovery, then thrive approach. So something you cannot control, something you control, and we're gonna classify them into different factors. So let's understand what is the business. So you know more than I know because you do business. Business is a set of processes to deliver value to a customer. So as I told you, the value will be flowing down from upstream to downstream in a supply chain. So supply chain management is a primary activity of the business. The accounting, marketing, and financing, information technology will be supporting activities, right? So the process should be value-added processes. So in the past, we tried to have a very efficient, effective, optimized supply chain, tried by including only value-added processes. But once something happening, the chain was broken, right? It was very difficult to fix because that is already optimized. So anyway, for a better business, try to have value-added processes, try to eliminate non-value-added processes to make a lean supply chain. So I just make a list of principles of being proactive and responsive for small business to survive in these difficult times. So categorize internal and external risk factors of the supply chain. So internal factors, for example, inventory, schedule, product, resources you have. External factors including economic, political, competitors' behavior, environmental things. So list controllable and uncontrollable risk factors of supply chain, and then have proactive to the controllable risk factors. For example, you may need to minimize the impact of controllable internal factors. Because we cannot control external factors, we need to have a responsive to those uncontrollable risk factors. So I just categorize it into human resources, transportation, inventory, and other factors to come up with some ideas to overcome these challenges. So human capital has an issue of labor shortage. But anyway, so we need to focus on people. To the business, people first. It's not about product service. People first, then you need to have a quality product and service. So we need to care about safety, healthy work environment, and legal, ethical, and if you can, profit sharing, and avoid any conflict, and include diversity and increase inclusion. So try to minimize the turnover rate. And if you can, try to implement automotive processes using technologies and innovative processes. That means try to eliminate non-value added processes using technology. So that doesn't mean you fire people. You work with people, but for non-value added processes, you may have technologies. So to decrease turnover rate, you need to have people first mind, profit sharing, conflict management, increase inclusion, and a team spirit. We need strong relations with people, and maybe can provide training, career development. Right. So as you see on this graph, labor cost is higher than before, right? Because labor shortage is one of the issues. However, the labor productivity went down. So as you hear this from media, so a lot of jobs available, right? But every company try to compete higher, better skilled person, right? So for small businesses, we may have unskilled personnel. So productivity goes down while labor cost is high. So to come up with the better skills, it takes time based on learning curve. Once they got the skills, and the productivity will go up very quickly. Then let's talk about the inventory shortage. So inventory should find the right place with the right quantity and increase inventory turnover. Inventory turnover is the cost of goods sold over the average inventory value. So inventory value goes up, that means inventory turnover goes down. So you need to sell more to increase the cost of goods sold. Right? And increase the visibility to find right quantity to place an order. So everything is depending on product, value, and customer. So I just cannot say which one is the best answer for one type of business, but I'm talking in general. Yeah. See, inventory went down into the beginning of 2020, but it go up, but very slowly at retailers level, right? And manufacturing inventories also go up, try to catch up with enough capabilities. Right? Then transportation as one of issues to deal with, right? Fuel price go up and transportation company try to charge fuel surcharge, and congestion is one of the problems in urban logistics, right? So we experience driver shortage. So we need to come up with a multimodal approach for on-time, in-time delivery. So you always don't have to on-time delivery. Sometimes you may postpone, you may have in-time delivery. So also try to minimize delivery frequency. So I was getting this information from Federal Reserve. See, truck tonnage index is slowly catching up, and while air revenue ton miles of freight mail spiked, right? So there is no spot um, to deliver product from other country to the United States market. Container ships stuck at the Suez Canal and at the port, and train doesn't have enough capability, and truck has labor shortage issues. So shippers went air transportation. So that's why air revenue ton miles of freight spiked. This picture is from Charleston in South Carolina. So if you cannot find for hire, you may use your own truck to deliver container to the ports or rail terminals. And you use multimodal approach in urban areas. Whatever transportation is available, you may use it. So now we experience inflation. So small business need to utilize government fund and grant and minimize private loan at this moment because the Federal Reserve mortgage interest rate is higher than before, and demand forecasting is one of the important things. You need to have optimal orders, and demand management is one of the business functions which is necessary. So you can have a peak management to control demand and supply capability. So business sales go up, but the inventory goes down. So there is a gap between demand and supply. Right? To understand these things, you may use information available from the public. You can use Google Analytics, Microsoft, or ERP. And as I use the data from Federal Reserve, you can go to the public website and see what's going on. Should be active member to one or multiple associations such as SBDC. That's why we're having weekly webinar like this. And Association of Supply Chain Management, North Georgia chapter I belong. And Transportation Research Forum, there is a New York Transportation Research Forum chapter. And New York, New Jersey Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals. They're having meeting and provide webinars. Use those resources they provide, and also use public resources from college, university, research centers, libraries, and websites. So if you can share information with your collaborators, customers in your supply chain network. And we need to be aware of policies, rules such as plastic bag policy, carbon dioxide, waste management policies, rules, regulations, standards, locally, nationally, and globally. So now, say fixed rate mortgage is over 5%, it's very high. And housing price index, you see vacancy is very low. Median days on the market in the United States is very low. That means if you have a house in the market, it's being sold quickly. Okay, so I was just getting this information from Federal Reserve regarding business rental price. Now, as you expect, you experience the product price index by commodity in real estate service of office building is going up continuously. And the self-service shortage mini warehouse is very stiff, and industrial building also going up. Now all rental prices going up. So a lot of factors affecting your business. So to survive in these challenging times, to be thrive, to be successful. I was getting this information from National Women's Business Council website. I just modified a little bit. So if you're interested in, go to the website and get some ideas. So for example, you increase market access and better capital investment, and also invest in human capital. Try to have innovative process and technologies, and then work with the community, right? Understand policies and utilize the resources available. That's why we had a discussion on the previous slides. Okay, to conclude my presentation, there were several key takeaways. We need to understand the value and supply chain we belong to, and let's develop and adopt innovative process, product, services, technologies. Let's focus on people, product, processes for competitive advantage. Now, let's understand space for transportation, time for storage, and quantity for inventory. And utilize existing resources of information, grant, policy, rules, standards, globally, domestically, and globally, locally. Let's build the resilience using preventive, proactive management. So all those things, that's just my ideas, and so we can have a discussion if you have any questions, and those informations available from this list of references. Thanks again. My name is Unsu Lee. If you have any questions, you can reach at lee3@njcu.edu. Thank you. I'm gonna ask Christian to host the Q&A.
Hello. Thank you so much, Unsu. Wonderful presentation. Let me go ahead and share my screen here, and we will open up for Q&A. So go ahead, anyone. You could really, at this point, you could put your questions into the chat box. That is totally fine, and I'll just read them out from there. In the meantime, while questions come in, what do you recommend small businesses take as a first step? Let's say they are having supply chain issues right now. What is one of the first steps they should take?
I think I mentioned a little bit. So because small business don't see they are dealing with the supply chain. So small business need to understand which supply chain they belong to. So try to understand who are the suppliers, who are alternative suppliers, and who are customers, who are alternative customers with alternative product and services. So kind of a scenario approach. So need to understand what kind of options are available and who are existing supply chain partners.
Gotcha. I think this question here that someone submitted is a good segue. H.J. Choi asks, thank you for explaining the global situation easily and interestingly in a rapidly changing environment. Then what should small business owners like us be interested in? Is it necessary to pay attention to basic industries such as manufacturing that went abroad?
Thank you first. And I tried to understand the question. So question is
basically what it seems that the question is asking, what other industries should small businesses be paying attention to, I guess to be aware of, you know, the supply chain issues. And he says, as an example, such as manufacturing that has gone abroad.
Okay, gotcha. So should be aware of situations around the country, around the world. Now, everything has an impact on supply chain performance. So it doesn't matter manufacturer, retailer, distributors. You see a lot of retailers being closed in Jersey City, New Jersey, when I'm driving around. And I also see new manufacturers with the new opportunities. Yeah. So a lot of new opportunities come out when you have challenges. So
Yeah, definitely. Like third-party logistics companies are now huge because
yeah, right,
people can't get, shipping quick enough. But if you have enough time, you could ship a bulk of whatever you need to
right,
these 3PL warehouses, and they'll do the job for you.
right. 3PL deal with less than truckload and truckload. So yeah, working with the forwarders. Yeah.
Right, right. One door closes, another one opens.
Right.
Awesome. I think we have a shy audience. I'd love to welcome any questions.
Yeah.
Do not be shy. Remember, you can also ask anonymously in the Q&A. So on your Zoom screen on the bottom, you're going to see several buttons. It's going to be next to the chat button, and you can submit a question there. And it could be really about this topic, or it could be about the NJSBDC in general.
Thanks again for inviting me, and I hope that provide information. And if you have any question, feel free to send me email. I just say the email account.
Great. Yeah. Can you put your email into the chat?
Okay, I'll do it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Perfect. So everyone, Unsu just put his email into the chat. So you're able to contact them there. And on your screen on the right, you're going to see a QR code where you can also request for no-cost counseling from the NJSBDC. And I don't see any more questions coming in, so I think we're going to close out here. Just as a reminder to everyone, next week on Tuesday and Thursday, we have webinars. Tuesday is how to have supportive conversations for a productive workplace. So besides the supply chain issues, besides the marketing, you still have to communicate with people. Communicating with people isn't always easy. So on this call, we're going to learn how to have more productive conversations at the workplace. And on Thursday, this is sort of part two. Well, I guess not so much part two. So part one of this was managing QuickBooks Online, which is sort of a different platform than the one we're going to talk about this Thursday, which is managing QuickBooks Desktop, the desktop version of QuickBooks as a small business. So again, you won't want to miss these. Next week, on the right, you can go ahead and scan the QR code. You'll go to a page so that you're able to register for these events. I'll give everyone a minute to take out their phones and scan here. If not, you could also look into the chat. And we just dropped a link so that you can see our eventbrite.com page, which is where all of our events are listed. All right, hope everyone got that. We are the NJSBDC. We've helped over 15,000 plus small businesses grow. No cost business consulting, training and events like this one at $0, and exclusive small business resources. So to get started, go ahead to njsbdc.com/request-counseling. Again, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you to our presenter, Usun Lee. And I invite everyone next week. But for now, have a great weekend. Thanks, everyone.